Hey y'all, welcome to Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. I'm Mandy. I'm just a mom sitting down having real conversations with real Texas parents about what's going on in our schools. Today we are joined by Joanne Shofner, a mom of 3 with 4 bonus kids and a grandmother of 1 with 6 bonus grandchildren. Joanne, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lots of kids in your life.
Lots of kids. It's the reverse. I have 4. Every single one of them gave birth to. I'm counting all of them. And my husband
Thank
has
you for correcting
3.
me, and my apologies.
Sorry. Go. Correct. But we have so much fun. They range from the age of 20 to 40-something. And it's just great. It's so much fun.
What are the ages of your grandkids?
Grandchildren, the newest one is almost 7 months old. Sweet, sweet boy. He's a chunk of change. And then the other ones go up to 10 years old. So great.
What a fun season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that. Yes, I miss those squishy little cuddles of the
Yes,
babies.
you have to wait till
That's
grandkids.
awesome. Well, as we talked about, it looks like you're headed to the legislature here when y'all gavel in January.
Yes, turns out.
That's
Yes.
very exciting. It's been a wild road the past year, I think.
It has. The hardest part was the primary. I have no Democrat challenger, so they go, "Oh, you can take a break." I'm like, "What? Well, what do I do? I mean, is there a book? Is there a YouTube? No, nothing. Figure it out. Be your grown-up self and go figure it out."
Figure it out.
Since March 6th, we've been going around the 6 counties and meeting all the people we hadn't met yet, superintendents, et cetera, all the associations. You know how many nurse associations there are, and all the things. And then coming up here and meeting all the members, the incoming and the current ones. And that's just been wonderful. Building relationships, repairing relationships, and just really having a great time. And everyone has been so wonderful, of course, because we're freshmen. They've been great, but really authentically great. That's what's been the greatest surprise is such a big chunk of the Republican caucus is authentically here for the right reasons.
Yeah.
They're not here for power position or anything like that, but they really truly care about Texans.
Right.
And they appreciate them and they want to be here. We prayed together, all of it. So it's been great.
That's beautiful. That really leads us into what we're advocating for in the parent empowerment movement. And we say it's the parent empowerment movement. It's not the school choice movement because we want to recognize that it's every parent that should be the ultimate decision maker. They should have the choice of where to send their child to school, whether it's a great public school down the street that is teaching a high quality education that's free from indoctrination. And
transparency.
That's right. Look at you. You're on it. Transparency into what's going on in the curriculum, in the libraries. That's obviously a huge issue that we've been taking on. But that's what this is about, is offering choice to Texans. Particularly parents who see oftentimes so many parents and grandparents, the majority that I meet, they were public school educated themselves, and they say, something's different. So share with me a little bit. We've spent a lot of time talking about, again, not just empowering parents with education savings accounts, but really a lot of the reforms that we need to see across the system as a whole, where that we're really focused on the teachers and the classrooms because they are the most important aspect of a kid's learning journey and whether they'll be successful. What did you hear and what are you continuing to hear from parents in your district?
Well, my children went to every school. We moved a lot, so I had they were homeschooled for 7 years. They were in Catholic school, private Christian school, classical Christian school, and then my 3 boys ended up graduating from public school. So I have a little bit of taste on the parent side and substitute teaching side and actual teaching side of all the things. And even in my own situation with my own sons, we could already see that they were starting to, people were coming in and dressed as little animals, and it was just in that cute or in that funny or a little tail or whatever, and then I get a school board member in one of the school systems who said, yeah, well, we had a girl and, she wanted to be a cat. And so we had to get a litter box because that's the law. And I'm like, what?
What?
The law? No, it's not. He
Wait,
goes,
okay.
it's not the law. No. Where did you hear is the law?
So a child, okay, so we're in this, or I'm going to open up this Pandora's box right now.
Yeah,
so we're in, right. So we're in this whole debate, right, of identifying. And identity politics, quite frankly, has become a weapon of the left, the Marxists, right? You are how you identify, whether that's race or sexuality. But to be clear, what you're saying is that in this whole, quite frankly, insane debate of gender identity, is someone in your district's, a school board member said that a girl identified not as a different gender, but she's identifying as a whole different species?
Yes.
Did I hear this correct?
Species identification, which is, right here at the pipeline. I mean, all we have to do is look at California and see what's happening there and going, okay, we're about 5 minutes from having that happen here.
Yes.
And so he, said, well, yeah, I mean, we had to have a litter box. And I said, well, how about, no, that's not the law, first of all, as well as, why don't you, you could tell the parent, we're happy to help you find a therapist for your child and maybe you, if this is happening, because this is not reality and this is not good for, humans to pretend like there are other things. I get it on Halloween or whatever, but not in real life. But it turns out that, he went to a class at a TASB convention that was offering, I'm sure, some sort of insight on things. And so there's a lot of good folks that have run for school board because their kids go to school there and they're going to these conventions thinking that it's the law when they go to these, they're having their margarita and whatever and getting on the riverboat ride and then going to these places and they're talking about, well, gender identification, species identification, obviously, these are great books to teach, your kid about sex, whatever, and so they don't know, there's not really a book for them either.
Right.
And so I sympathize with them, obviously. And so I'm like going, okay, where is the new TASB? We got to get a conservative or, a common sense teachers, helping and school board members helping people where they can, it's just too many, so much of our taxpayers' money goes to them. And it just really needs to, anywhere I see a concentration of power, I just want to take a big stick and go, because that's going to be completely corrupted. That's right there.
That's right. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is, we see this time and time again, TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, that they're not just the Texas Association of School Boards. We know they have all these subsidiaries. They have healthcare cooperatives and risk insurance cooperatives and investment pools and all of these different entities that they are a revenue stream from taxpayers, right? But but then they are a private entity. And you have to question, because I do hear this a lot from parents and from school board members who are saying, we got this guidance, the Title IX guidance, right? Of, well, if you don't allow boys to change in the girls' locker room because they identify, then you might be sued. And that is obviously something that is highly concerning to school board members. But to your question, great news. There is an alternative. There's actually two alternatives. We have one here in Texas, Texans for Education Excellence. And that is a lot of the more conservative districts. Southlake, several others have said, no thank you to the leftists, guidance that's coming out of the entities like the Texas Association of School Boards, who provides the board book, which if people aren't familiar with what board book is, that is the guidance given to over 1,000, over 1,200 of our school districts. They provide the legal guidance. And we say that because school board members and school boards have the ability to change that guidance, but oftentimes they through fear and intimidation, from what I'm told, that there are different tactics that are used to really curtail.
Gaslighting.
Yes, that. Even, I just recently did a podcast with the CEO of TEET, I think is what they call it. And he pointed out that they threatened to sue the people that wanted to leave TASB. I mean, you just go, wow. And that really goes to what
More
you're saying.
lawfare.
It corrupts the lawfare. That's it. That is it.
It's just lawfare.
The threat of litigation is terrifying.
Right.
So that is it. And I hear that as well everywhere, is where is all of this leftist ideology coming from and why? And I would say it's from multiple streams, but certainly the associations. You mentioned, I think at the beginning, you said, do you know how many nurses associations there are? No, I'm not a healthcare expert, but I can imagine there's a lot. And I think that oftentimes these associations, the thing that is pointed out to me constantly by leaders, legislators, and the public is every time you hear them talk about something, it's never about what's best for kids. Ever.
Yeah. We need more money. We need more things.
We need more power.
Going, okay, where's teachers? Nope, haven't heard it yet. Students? Nope, haven't heard it yet. So it's hard. And I also want to say that I know there's some good people at TASB. I know one in particular. And wonderful. So this is kind of a criticism of the organization, not necessarily the people involved, even though I know there's some people involved that need to, but, however, just like, if we got rid of all the humans, it'd be so much easier, but, that's not happening. So we have to work, within the system, and so to answer your question in the big picture is, well, we need revival. We need people to come back to Christ. That's the first check. All right. Next, then we can get back into governing ourselves, which we're supposed to be doing, by the way, and taking ownership. But we've just gotten so easily, falling asleep at the wheel, letting someone else do it, giving up our power for ease and safety and comfort, and it's just, getting heavier. I gained 10 pounds on the campaign trail. They always said, oh, you're going to lose so much weight. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, what happened? Anyway, it really, it just all comes down to people. And then the more, especially with bureaucracies, and especially bureaucracies that use taxpayer money, because they see it as a big giant wallet. And that's the lazy man's way of getting money, is to, let's get the, people's taxes.
Yep.
I mean, that's the easy go-to.
That's a great point. So you hit on two things, just being the transparency of it. A lot of people just receive their tax bills. And, I can remember the big, huge celebration of $18 billion property tax reform, right? Relief from the legislature. But this system has found a way to
quickly.
Very well. How
did that happen so fast?
They're planning it. I'll tell you.
No
just
doubt.
Mark my words. This is what's happening because as soon as that property tax was passed in June of 2023, and this was supposed to be, the most incredible relief, and the legislature did their jobs and they passed it, but 4.5 months later, in November of 2023, there was ISD bonds. There was, I think, $34 billion in ISD bonds that were put up. 28 billion of them passed. So it's 4 months after $18 billion. So we've already, that's gone. But then just May of this year, they passed another $10 billion. We're about $185 billion in ISD debt, which is because they figured out, to your point, more money, just more money. And quite frankly, as a legislator, one, I hope you take that on and close these loopholes on how they are hiding things and straight up electioneering. I mean, I'm watching it right now. They are engaging in electioneering. Yeah, and that's got to change. But also this just more tax dollars. And I think that Texans are going, wait a second, we want to invest in our kids and we want to invest in our teachers. But why is it that over 60 cents on the dollar is not going to our kids' teachers? It's a huge concern.
Right. So they're using the teachers as a prop also, and they're just trying to, oh my gosh, can you imagine teaching, 35 kids, 40 kids, and so that's what in homeschooling, when people thought, I started homeschooling and my mom was just shocked. She was like, your kids are going to the stupid farm. I'm like, no, Mom, it'll be all right. And then other, parents and teachers, I'm like, I don't know, if you had 2 classes, teacher, if you had the class of 4 kids or the class of 40 kids, which class do you want to go to? Which class you go to the class with the 4 kids because
Mhm.
you go further, deeper, you can slow down, you can speed up, and all that. Anyway, so
Because of the money, the funding, that's where the
they're
money
being
should go.
used and used and used, and the constant thing I get from teachers is, I've got to pay out of my own pocket for kids that don't have school supplies, don't
Yeah.
have food, things like that. I feel so bad for them. It's heartbreaking for them. The money is there. They
Mhm.
get tons of money.
Mhm.
They have it in savings accounts. They have it. Their bureaucracy at the administration level is just ballooned to this mushroom size.
Right.
And so it's there. It's just not being given to them. And so they're being instructed. Tell your legislators to open up Texas's purse and pour it out on the table and give us money, when it's not. Your boss is not your boss, is your superintendent.
Mhm.
That's your boss. That's who you need to
Right.
get more money from. But it doesn't. If they gave him money, then there'd be no fight. There'd be no, we got to get more money.
Right.
And since the federal funds and ESSER funds from COVID and all that is ending, now they're kind of, squirrels in the winter, shoring up,
That's right.
tons of money for them to make money on, rather than going to the teachers.
That's exactly correct. And so you hit on a lot of things
Mhm.
there. So one, yes, we were told by multiple trustees all across Texas, and one actually said it on camera, acknowledged that at a TASB conference, that one of these big financial lobbying firms told them, you shouldn't give teacher pay raises because we need to use it as leverage.
Mhm.
And that was obviously absolutely appalling. And it was one of those things that you've heard this too, that there were many of them that were saying it out loud, but they're afraid to say it, because somehow when you want to fix a system and take care of those that we want to take care of, the teachers and the kids, then you must hate public schools.
Right.
And you're saying to her, no, I want more for
Mhm.
kids and teachers, and I don't care about those profiteers that have figured out a way to steer this money out of our classrooms and raise property taxes. I mean, Texans have got to be frustrated as all get out, seeing their property taxes just keep going up and up and up.
Right. So first of all, November 5th, go vote, please. And this is going to help some other things. And so, and prices coming down and all that stuff. But secondly, there's people feel helpless. They don't know what to do. They were so excited about all this. My property taxes are going down, and they're like, "What happened to my val? Why all of a sudden is my property worth double? I don't understand." On one hand, if you sell it immediately, that might be good, but then it's not. Oh my gosh! And so the regular person, doesn't understand it. I barely understand it. And so it's really, really hard.
Well, it's intentionally convoluted.
Of course it is. And then you've got all the schools, and you've got people in big giant trucks, construction trucks, going, we'll build you a this and we'll build you a that. And, you'll have all these great looking things that look like college level, stadiums.
And you'll be in debt, and your kids will be in debt.
And it'll be okay. And someone else will pay for it, but way a long way back when, generations from now, whatever, and they're going, okay, that is just, people don't realize that when they say they checked the box or scribbled it in for bond, yes, that means you're literally saying, I want my taxes raised.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what you're saying when you scribble that in.
Yeah.
I mean, they think it's just pretend money. And then you have the bond money. Let's get on a roll. Then you have the bond company, coming in, and they're professional companies that come in and going, you want more money? This is how you can get more money, and we'll set it all up. And now we'll also manage it, and now we'll get money from that. So it goes down to following the money.
That's right.
And so when you get down to suing, if you leave TASB, we're going to sue you. Okay, well, that's the other person. They're feared that their money's going to be taken away. TASB suing because they're afraid their money's going to be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And you just go all the way down. Okay, where's the money? Where's the power? Okay, then you'll find out the truth of what's going on. And it's an absolute mess.
It is a mess. And thank you for saying all those quiet parts out loud. That is what is happening. That is what is happening. And simultaneously, the whole time. So I'm zoned for Austin ISD, and right now every school I drive past has it's Prop A for teacher pay. Sure, those same companies that are doing the bond consulting and doing all the things, I'm sure they're right behind all that. But this is I want to scream and be like, you can give teachers pay raises right now. That's up to your school board and superintendent.
Yeah.
They intentionally intentionally do not give pay raises. And they said the quiet parts out loud because they want teachers to go vote a certain way.
Right.
Which would be to
it's
vote.
A big voting block.
To vote to, right, increase. That's right. You've got all these different entities that remind people. So I was watching, there's this organization called Friends of Texas Public Schools, and I was watching a video, and it was talking about the 800,000 teachers and employees of school districts all across Texas, and you need to vote for yourself. And I was like, can we just vote for the kids? Who wants to vote for the kids? I'm over here wanting to vote for the kids and wanting to vote for the parents and want to vote for the taxpayers and restore fiscal sanity so that we're not, going off of a fiscal cliff.
Right.
It's very
and
frustrating.
Obviously throwing money at the matter is not working.
It's not.
So you know, if they were a business, school districts would be out of business because, what's the result? 50% of the kids can't read. 60% of the kids can't do math, and it's just like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Your product is awful. Now, I do understand that, Texas law, you have to educate, doesn't say how to educate, but that we will, we need to educate. That's fine. And they, their complaint, public school complaint is like, we have to take everybody. We don't get to just take the cream of the crop or whatever. We have to take everybody. So I completely understand and how that happens and all. But however, it is throwing money at the matter. We've increased it by 50% in the last decade. Hasn't worked. They said, oh, the base allotment's only, 6,000. Well, actually, that's not how much you're getting.
Right.
My district, they're getting at least 15 because all the weights and things like that. So, depending on the school district and the poverty level and the type of kid and more identity and all that. So, it's just mismanagement is really what it is. It's mismanagement of money.
That's right.
And just getting down to, I don't want to assume that they're doing it in an evil way, and not necessarily an incompetent way, but it's just so much. And you've got TMI, so much information being thrown at them going, I'm just trying to do the best I can, because I know I have just great, superintendents and teachers in my district. However, there's a better way to do things. And if you're not thinking outside the box and going, how can we save money on insurance? How can we get the teachers more money? How can I help the teachers? What do you need, teachers? And having the teachers doing some sort of a anonymous assessment of the school culture that's going on. I have other teachers saying that they're afraid to discipline in their classroom because the higher ups are not supportive of them. And then the parent will sue us, or I have to deal with a mad parent or whatever. And so it's just nothing but chaos. So there's no teaching going on really in general, and we have our wonderful and incredible teachers who have been there for, 30 years and refuse to leave because they don't want to give, or administrators, they don't want to give their school over to some young teacher and young kids who've come out of a college who's teaching all this gender study stuff and DEI and CRT and LMNOP, bringing that all in. They're like, I can't leave. I was going to retire, but I can't because you are filled with false information, and I need to be aware.
Yeah. Yes, on all of that. That's correct. And that's what this is about, because to hammer the point home for our listeners, we have a problem. There is a crisis in our classrooms, if you will, on so many fronts. And what they do, the administration and the higher ups, while there are some obviously good administrators, that is, but the system as a whole, we have a problem in the system, and it is more inclined to protect the system at all costs. And the children are collateral damage. And if 50% of them can't read, and just to put those numbers really hammered down, we spent $16,792 on average per child across the state of Texas in 2022, 2023. Almost $17,000. Okay. 50% of kids can't read, 60% can't do math. So let's go with can't read. And that's the STAR results. That's not even talking about the NAEP scores that show us that only 24% of our eighth graders can read on grade level. But when we look at that, we have over 5.5 million kids in our public school system. That means that over 2.5 million kids right now in our system cannot read on grade level. If you cannot read on grade level by the 3rd grade, there is a 97% chance you never catch up. We are shuffling these kids through, and we're protecting a system, and we keep asking taxpayers to fund it. And quite frankly, when people like you or myself start saying, excuse me, can we see these numbers? We'd like to understand what's going on here. We'd like to see where your money's going. How much money are you spending on consulting? How much money are you spending on associations? How much money are you spending on all of this other nonsense, quite frankly, that doesn't impact the kids and the education?
You know, if only we had something that if the parents could get the money directly, then they could take their kids and go get a tutor or something, or maybe even go to another school if that one was failing, if that one's not doing well. If only we had some sort of system like that.
I got a great news for you.
Do?
I got great news. I'm pretty sure that coming up, you are going to have the opportunity to cast the vote to empower parents with exactly that idea. Education savings accounts for any parent that needs it and wants it and says, you know, this school is not working for me, whether it's my child is their IEPs not being met, or they're being bullied to the point of suicide, or they are just, maybe their elementary school's not teaching phonics, because somewhere between 30 and 40% of our public schools, elementary schools, are not using phonics to teach reading. I mean,
they're just trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
That's all.
Right. It worked well for, let's see, Plato, Aristotle, John Adams, Jefferson, all the other classically educated leaders of their day. Let's just get to the basics. And parents can do that with education savings accounts. They can say, hey, schools, we're going to do this. Or we're going to find somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's genius.
Yeah, genius. And, you know, hey, homeschool families, great. Now I don't have to pay for the curriculum out of pocket. I can, and then, you know, when we homeschool, we had so much fun because we'd learn about the Revolutionary War, and then we'd go to Williamsburg and Jamestown and see it, you know. And I went to a private school my whole life, and I feel like I got my education when I homeschooled my kids, because not only did I want to learn, but it was just so many different ways of learning, because really sitting at a desk in a classroom is really made for girls who are super neat that sit at the front row and raise their hand.
That's right.
They're not made for little boys who are auditory learners, and then the kid next to him is tapping the pencil, and they're, you know, he's looking at the pencil and he's missing the lesson because he's hearing the pencil, you know. And so school,
or tactile learners,
right? And tactile learners, et cetera. And so so school is not built for that,
right?
In general. And so kids kind of fall on one side or the other of whether they're able to do school, because school is set up a system way. You know, it's not really, you know, it's, you know, we have our wonderful teachers, of course. However, you know, it was set up, you know, 100 years ago, whatever, you know, for manufacturing kind of jobs, do what you are supposed to do, next, stand in line and all that. And it just really, it can be reworked. There's so much money going to it. My gosh, we should have geniuses at all times. Yeah. But unfortunately, with Texas being, are we number 34, number 32 in the nation for education? We're number 1 in business. We're number 1 here, number 1 there, number 1 all over the place. 8th largest economy in the world. However, our education, even though we throw a ton of money at it, is still below standard. And that's got to be the next thing that we put a big giant stick to in order to break up Ma Bell back in the olden days when we had Southwestern Bell, and broke that up. And it's for the kids.
Yep. It is for the kids. Well, it's for the future of Texas too, because you're hitting it. The Texas miracle cannot continue if we don't have a well-educated population coming up, a population that understands, well, the basics, reading, writing, math, civics, history, and all of that, but also hard work, what it takes to be successful. And that's really key. And you touched on something when we're talking about boys. I have one son. How many sons do you have?
I have 3 and then another 2.
So a lot of boys. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, because it's important for those parents that have children that maybe aren't in the elementary years and whatnot. But this narrative that was set up for the system, 4-year college for all, which has been an utter disaster for
Have
so
you
many.
paid for a plumber lately?
Right. Oh,
I
no.
mean,
Right.
I'll get. He's coming in February.
Right. Right. Because one, we're projected to have massive shortages across Texas. We're going to be short 10,000 electricians, 6,000 plumbers, 4,500 HVAC, oil and gas. I mean, the list just keeps going on and on. But particularly our boys, and you talked about this, they are struggling. And it's kind of a lost generation of boys because so many males, they want to be outside. They want to be doing something with their hands. And that's what's so amazing about education savings accounts is that for the parents of our young boys who don't want to go to a 4-year school and get a, degree in underwater basket weaving, or that used to be a facetious joke. Now it's just gender studies. Like, what are you going to do with that? But anyways, they don't want to go do that. And you can't blame them, but they would love to go be a plumber or an electrician or a welder or construction or these jobs that are paying. I mean, so we did a video about 2 years ago seeing this coming of this workforce gap that all of those in the business side that are keeping this engine going for Texas, they say we can't find workers. We can't find those that want to go into these fields. And so we went and kind of did the research to see the massive gaps. And that's why education savings accounts can be used by anyone that wants to pursue this career in technical education. So you could start, and there was a law passed 2 years ago. It was Matt Schaefer's law, and he realized we should be lowering to 16. Why are we forcing kids to wait to 18? 16-year-olds can use an education savings account and go and be trained to be a plumber or an HVAC worker. These kids here in the Austin area, you can come out making $90,000 a year. It's wild.
It's incredible. Well, Thomas Jefferson, he went to college when he was 15, and so we've completely extended childhood, and so boys and girls are ready to get out by the time 15, 16, 17. I mean, you can tell, and so we're just kind of manufacturing stay here, stay in the classroom, stay here, rather than letting them go off and do what they need to do, which they were built to do. That our culture has also feminized them. So there's lots of feminization going on with our kids. Don't hit, don't swear, don't whatever, don't. And it's just really emasculating them. Boys learn by, they learn by climbing trees and squashing bugs. That's how they learn. Teaching math table to my kids, I'd let them be on the swing out in the park while they did their times table, because when they were moving their body, they could focus. And every kid learns in a different way. And I love and adore so many schools, and we need them, obviously. And we just need to be much more creative in how we're not only in general teaching kids in general, but also if it's a failing school, but you have no way out, you can't afford to move, you can't afford to get a new job, and then those parents especially deserve to have their own tax dollars come back to them so that they can make a great choice for their student and their child. It's all about freedom. I'm all about freedom and individual rights and free market enterprise. The end.
Yes.
And so how can we apply those three things to our school system? And guess what would happen? My gosh, what happened with Elon Musk recently? And if we had regulated that to death, now I think the federal government FCC just took Starlink out of its system. I think that was announced today. I wonder if that was political at all.
Was that because it landed perfectly and the government's never been able to do
No. It's because he sent Starlink. No, because he's supporting Trump. That's what it is. The end. That's the only reason. And he helped too many North Carolinians, I guess. I don't know.
I'm so excited that Texans get to know you. Obviously, your district has gotten to know you, and you do what I love, which is say the quiet parts out loud. So I want you to tell everybody, when you get to the Capitol, y'all gavel in, I think January 14th, if I'm correct. And obviously you're representing the constituents, the great people of House District 11 in East Texas, but you're voting. It impacts all of this great state.
Mm-hmm.
What are your priorities?
My priorities obviously are going to be education, not only with parent empowerment, with school choice. A border obviously is giant, got to happen. There's so many things. My issue is I like too many things. I love to, I want to know about that. That's wonderful. How can I do it all? How do I do it all? And so, but higher education is also very, very passionate about that. But education in general, just my families for generations. My great great grandfather was involved early on in ISD school district coming in, and my father and my brother have been involved in University of Houston as for many, many, many years, getting that to a tier 1 school. And so we have Stephen F. Austin University, who's University of Texas, has just come in, and we have a wonderful new president, and very, very excited about that. And so we've got to start there, because not in SFA in particular, but in general, how are we teaching the teachers?
Yes.
Where's that coming from? Where's the superintendent's school?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Has to be in charge of that too?
Yes.
And so, so you have to look at the orchard,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can't go get an apple if the entire orchard's diseased. So we have to literally go back to, and I want people to have autonomy, to be able to have a choice. And everyone needs to have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
including Texans and teachers and school board members, not going just to the one place that gives 99% to Democrats, but to all the different, school board associations, teacher associations, insurance, and really handing the power even back to, I'm like, well, is there a way to just not take the federal money from the Department of Education?
Yes.
I would love to be
there
that,
is.
where's the Argentinian president where he's like, Department of Education gone, Department of Commerce gone, and guess what's happening to Argentina? Their economy's doing great.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk? So I just really want to focus in general on whatever it takes to get Texas to be continuing to be the miracle, to be the independent. By the way, that used to be the United States of America. And but we have to protect ourselves, because if Kamala gets in a month, we have zero time to shore up our boundaries, so to speak, in all areas. If Trump gets in, praise God. However, we have a tiny bit of a breath before we need to do the exact same thing. We got to solidify Texas for Texans, and just make sure that, make Texas great again. But we just have to make sure that we get back what we lost, and we keep what we have. And so many people in the campaign, my gosh, moved to Texas, in East Texas in particular, from California, from Oregon, and from Washington State, because they weren't allowed to put an American flag in their front yard. So they came for political asylum, and they wanted their own place. They wanted to be able to have their own choice and be able to have their own freedom. And all the other states obviously see that.
Yeah.
The blue states depend on Texas to pull us out of all this, because they're looking to Texas like, all right, Texas, you're showing us how to do it. We need to be able to do it. And we need to help our conservative blue state people, and encourage them to keep fighting, because it could turn around.
Yes. Well, as goes Texas, so goes the nation. That is correct. Before we wrap up here, the parent empowerment movement has swept the state. The push for education savings accounts. The parents rose up, and they were the largest voting bloc, and they stood with you.
Oh, by the way, teachers are parents too.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
We're fighting for the teachers as well. They stood with you, recognizing the parent empowerment movement is about really giving parents back the freedom that has made our country great. Right. So I want you to look in that camera right there and talk to the parents and the patriots of House District 11, but talk to the parents and patriots all across Texas of why they should join you in advocating to empower parents with education savings accounts, provide transparency into what's going on, and a high quality education for every single child. Talk to the parents and the patriots.
Well, I want you to have complete autonomy and complete freedom of where you want to send your child. And if your public school is doing great and you love your teachers, and you love your principal and superintendent, wonderful. If the librarian has gotten all the pornography books out immediately, awesome. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And so you need to be able to have the choice to have a stick by using your feet of being able to leave if you need to. And it's so incredibly important for your families to make choices on where you want to go and how to best educate your child, whatever your child needs. It's so important. And coming from lots of children in my house, I completely understand it's scary sometimes. You don't know what to do. You don't want to ruin your child's education for the rest of their life, and they have all their friends at the school. But we have to be able to educate our children in a way that is meaningful. 2020, obviously, the lockdown showed that we finally saw what they're teaching our children. You need to be able to have the freedom, if you choose, to look at their curriculum, to see if you're okay with your curriculum. The parents need to be put back in charge of their kids rather than going up to the school and knocking on the door and it's like going, is this a prison or a school? I don't know which. We got to get that freedom back and get control of our families and not letting others train up our child as the way they should go. That's our job. And so we need to get our responsibility back.
Joanne, thank you for being here. Thank you for advocating for parents all across Texas. Thank you for jumping into the political arena where it's down and dirty sometimes, but you stood strong. You stood firm for freedom, for parents, for what makes us the greatest state that's ever existed. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to see all the great work that you're going to do in the 89th legislative session. Thank you for joining us today on Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. And now you have the power.